Okay. Good morning. Today I'm going to talk about peace in everyday life and the benefit of suffering. Peace in every life and benefit of suffering. Did I say? Something is wrong today. Only Molam Chimbo Ngabjada, Pakartongan, Sando Hirmodo, Tumba Tukji Janla, Kivshan, Sar. Okay. First of all, it's very important to understand the benefit of suffering because, usually we have to know that the happiness we desire and we sort of try to get, and the suffering we don't want, and we try to eliminate, right? And all this, happiness, suffering, as you know, all come from the mind. And when we say it's come from the mind, it's not from somebody else's mind, but from our own mind. And if we make an effort to put our disturbing thoughts under the control of our mind, we will, Buddhists say, we will find peace and happiness in our everyday life. So today, let's say peace in everyday life and the benefit of suffering. So that's the kind of topic. And then if we try to bring peace and happiness in our everyday life, then our unwanted suffering will slowly reduce. And that's just general, but usually we don't get that, happiness, peace, and difficult to reduce our suffering because our innermost wish and what we do are opposite. It's very true. It's very clear. We want peace of mind. We want happiness, but we don't get it because that's our wish. But what we do actually, we harm ourselves. So that's why teachers say that what we want, what we wish, and what actually we do are opposite. So therefore, we want to find a peace, but we actually harm ourselves. We actually harm others. So that's why we don't get it. And when we think about happiness and suffering, then we talk about positive and negative actions, right? When we talk about happiness, right action, suffering, wrong action. So we're talking about positive and negative actions. But the thing is, how do we know which actions are positive and which actions are negative? It's very difficult to know if you don't check yourself. how do we know, like for example, when you meditate, how do you know or your meditation is positive? Um, because it doesn't depend on meditation itself. It is your motivation for doing it. I think most of the time our motivation, the meditation is like neutral, like what do you call it? Sort of undetermined, which means like neither like positive nor negative. That's why, you just sit down and then you try to meditate, right? But that's why the first the Buddhist, it's so important. Check your motivation. Otherwise, your meditation itself doesn't necessarily positive or negative if you don't check your motivation. So everything is, especially like Mahayana practice. Mahayana practitioners really need to check our motivation, and then you will see your meditation positive or negative. You will understand if you check. As soon as you check your motivation, then you will understand what is positive, what is negative, right? And if we are trying to practice Dharma, usually we practice, people understand practice is very important. But when we practice Dharma, but whatever we do with our body, speech, and mind doesn't really become Dharma, right? You see that. Because that's the Buddhist point of view. That's the fault of the selfish attitude. That's why they say investigate motivation is very important. Our actions don't become dharma. Our body, speech, and mind doesn't really become dharma. So because we are following the selfish attitude. So everyday life problems come from not having the right attitude. Because thinking in the wrong way brings problems, and thinking in the right way brings much peace and harmony. So it all depends on our attitude, and the right and wrong attitude depends on motivation. Let's say, for example, when you go to work in the morning, you should go with the attitude of remembering the kindness of those who give you your job. And if you think every morning, like, I'm going to work for my own happiness, if you go with that kind of attitude, it's not really correct attitude. So it's very important to know how your mind works in daily life. And from the Buddhist point of view, motivation gives you the ability to examine your own mind, to see if your thinking is positive or negative. So, you're capable of this. Buddha is one who was completely developed. Each of us have the potential to develop in the same way. In the same way. The other day I thought everything depends on our attitude, and our attitude depends on motivation. So all the actions, body, speech, mind, all these actions depends on negative or positive, depends on your motivation. So we have, good thing is we have this potential to develop the same way Buddha, developed. So when you trust yourself and feel sort of confident, when you have had some experience of your own wisdom and good attitude, you will recognize your potential. So, yes, we have problems. We have, there's happiness, suffering every day. And especially you can see in the modern world, most human problems come from conflicted relationship between people. When somebody hurt us, we can't even remember what kind of meditation we should practice at that time. I got lost this morning, so then people, people get angry, right? So you do things illegally, and then people get angry, right? And then people go slow, and I was hurried, then I get angry, right? So I didn't remember my practice. It's very, it's true. When you are happy, everything is correct and happy. Actually, you can practice very well. But you have difficulties, somebody hurts you. It's very, very difficult to meditate. Even you don't remember what kind of, meditation that you should practice, at that time. It's, believe me, usually people say I'm a good practitioner. That means I think maybe you're in a very good mood. I think it's very easy to see, how much you have capacity. From the Buddhist point of view, your practice, actually, when you have a difficult time, you have to use your practice. That's the point. At that point, you don't remember. You don't remember your practice. You can't meditate. You can't, practice. Then I think it's, what is the point, So it's very hard, when you have difficult, or when somebody hurts you, you can't remember, your meditation. Even though we receive all kinds of sort of mind training teachings from many different teachers, and receive all of these teachings, but when we sort of encounter problems, we cannot even remember the teachings we have received. Check it out. Why is that? We can't remember these teachings that we need. Why is that? It's because I think we are following our selfish attitude. As long as we follow our, as long as we allow ourselves to be controlled by our disturbing thoughts, we will always experience restlessness, no peace, means like no peace in our mind. I think you all know that. As long as, we sort of controlled by our negative thoughts, then there is no peace of mind. There is no peace of mind at all. So if we try to reduce these incorrect things, such as our, all our negativities, then we can definitely find peace. Absolutely, we can find peace. And in order to, it's not necessary to do these things, the religious way, but it is necessary to do these things proper way. Means like examine yourself, check your motivation, change your attitude, believe yourself, feel your confidence, to understand your potential. All of this, then absolutely you can find peace. From my own experience, through the teachings of Buddha, it brings me confidence. It brings me ability to control myself. It brings me, for sure, that's why it brings me peace, because through Dharma practice, we can accept all kind of situations, and it can change our lives. Absolutely, I believe that. Absolutely, through practice Dharma, it can change our lives. Very good. Absolutely, we can do that. And in order to develop our attitude and our conduct and our realizations and receive our happiness, find peace of mind, all of this come to us through practice. That's why, through practice we can change negative things into positive thing. Through practice. If you don't practice, you can't change. You can't change. The first thing we have to do in our everyday life is to change our negative attitude, because you see, we have enemies. And when we have an enemy, then from the Buddhist point of view, we need to practice patience. So when I say enemy, as you know, there are two different enemies, right? The outer enemies and then an inner enemy. So the outer enemy is usually something physical that hurts us, like, for example, like a person. And the inner enemies are very powerful, our afflictions and negative thoughts. This is Buddhist called inner enemies. So we have to remember our practice, patience. Patience, very, very important. When we encounter this sort of enemies, we get angry with ourselves or others because of these outer and inner enemies. Then, when somebody disturbs us, we have to take, it's not easy, but, the correct way, speaking, like, we have to take that opportunity to practice patience. The teachers say our friends don't give us the opportunity to practice patience. We have to rely on enemies for that. This is the patience practice. very important. And when you check yourself and ask yourself, where sort of does peace of mind actually come from? It comes from the enemy, outer and inner enemies. Whatever peace of mind we are sort of experiencing come from enemies, either outer enemy or inner enemy. And that's why practice patience very, very important. And otherwise, no matter how good our reputation, no matter how many people sort of we have below us and working for us, if we don't practice patience, we will have no peace of mind at all. And by practicing patience and generating love and kindness for these enemies, then our anger diminishes. And then when our anger diminishes, then there is a peace of mind. These are distractions. Distractions are enemies. So all the time people get angry. That's why there is no peace of mind. So as soon as our anger diminishes, then we have peace of mind. Enemies are all around us, every day with us, right there. And if you take this opportunity to practice patience, then you will find peace of mind right there. And if you don't practice, then, one day, all of a sudden, you die. This life is over and never practiced. And that's why you never had peace of mind, right? If we remember the kindness of enemies and practice patience and develop bodhicitta, then we're happy. We always, when we are happy, then we always enjoy our life. So, practice can help our mental suffering. And there are lots of, good methods for how to handle sufferings, unhappiness, right? From the Buddhist point of view, we should try to accept the experience of suffering, because teachers say that it helps us to develop our renunciation mind. So we have to understand that there are lots of suffering in our lives, and if we understand that, then we really want to eliminate suffering. That is what we call renunciation mind. So that is another, the benefit of suffering. When you are suffering, you want reduce or eliminate your suffering. That's the renunciation mind. And another benefit of suffering is seeking protection or desiring to take refuge. And it gives us an understanding of the benefit of taking refuge. This is because, when you are experiencing suffering, you will think about how to diminish it. And then you will understand that the solution for your suffering is meditation. And that meditation or the instruction comes from Buddha. So then you want to take refuge in him, right? So then you will understand the benefit of taking refuge through, the experience of suffering. And another, benefit of suffering is through the experience of suffering, you can diminish pride. That's another one, they say, pride. Without pride, you can develop your capacity. If you always think you are the best, which is pride, it is not your confidence. So with that pride, you will not recognize your mistakes, and you always think somebody else's fault. You always blame, others. You don't recognize your mistakes because of this emotion, this inner enemy. Then you cannot develop your knowledge. You cannot develop your capacity. You always think, I'm the best. So if you, that's another. And then, so actually there are lots of benefit of suffering. Through the experience of suffering, you will eliminate your negativities. Through the experience of suffering, you will feel sort of enthusiasm in your practice. Through the experience of suffering, you will generate compassion for others. So there are many good things from suffering. If you try to sort of accept all this situation and try to understand and the benefit, then there are lots of good things from suffering. So we should not sort of, should not be afraid of it. So you see, Buddhism always talks about suffering, because if you check deeply into how your mind functions in everyday life, whether you're rich or poor, famous or not, you will realize how this, what do you call it, dissatisfied we are, and how sort of that's why up and down our uncontrolled mind actually is. So you see that dissatisfied mind and going up and down itself are suffering. So that's why Buddhism always talks about suffering. There is a reason, right? There is a reason why we're always talking about suffering. So, for example, I'm a Buddhist practitioner, and when I practice Buddhism, it really, I can see, directly sort of my life, because the teachings of Dharma are talking about life, talking about truth. So if we want a peace of mind in our everyday life, then we must practice. We must practice. We don't have enough to practice. We just understanding, peace comes from the mind is not enough. We all know that, okay, our anger reduces, then you see there's peace of mind. If we practice patience, then we see we will find a peace of mind. We all know that, but that's not enough. If we don't practice what we know, we will not experience peace of mind. So Because why we don't have peace of mind? This is because we are always controlled by our disturbing thoughts. That's it. Disturbing thoughts, whether good or bad or negative or positive, always disturbs our mind. So then there is, we are restlessness, then there's no peace of mind there. So it is important to practice. And the practice like, shamatha brings you peace of mind, mindfulness brings you peace of mind, etc. So this practice make our mind very peaceful. And usually, teachers say that, you must be able to practice under any circumstances. But I think it's really difficult to get that kind of capacity. And you say usually like when we think of benefiting all sentient beings, all living beings, we know it is a good intention, right? But it's a big picture. Thinking of all sentient beings, it's so hard. It's difficult to have that kind of sort of love and intention. But it is not so difficult to think about what brings happiness and peace into your daily life. So let's correct, think about all living beings. It's very important, especially Mahayana practitioners. But I think first we have to really think about, how can we find a peace of mind in our daily life? I think that's very important. I think it's very important to think about what makes your life easy and free from problems. We don't have much time to practice, right? So we don't practice a lot. Not like ancient, like in Tibet, lots of people practice month by month, year by year. We don't practice a lot. We don't practice like that. We practice the best or good practitioner here. We practice like 2 hours, 3 hours. That's it. So we don't practice a lot. And then we have to think, what is the best method and best way to practice in order to become a stronger and good practitioner within a sort of short period of time. We have to find that kind of method because we don't practice a lot. So I think increase and change your positive thought is very important. And in order to do that, in order to increase positive thoughts, we have to practice, love and kindness, patience, and, bring mindfulness to our daily life and daily activities in ordinary sort of relationship. Then, according to Buddhism, Dharma has a direct and indirect benefit and brings happiness to, ourselves. So we have to practice the Dharma with our worldly activities. So if you have that sort of motivation and commitment, then You're not necessary to sit down on your cushion and then you practice, but always these things, love and kindness, mindfulness, you can bring this practice into your daily activities, So that's, I think, the best method. If you don't practice a lot, and if you really want a stronger practitioner, short period of time, then the best method is you have to bring love and kindness, mindfulness, and patience into your daily life, daily activities, So I'm not saying like in order to bring this meditation practice, you have to sit down and practice. I'm not saying that, but whatever you do, eating, walking, working, whatever, don't forget this practice. I think that's increase and change your positive, change your negative thoughts into positive. So I think these are the very, very good methods, and one of the first characteristic of the Dharma that shows itself in meditation is impermanence. Impermanence is very, very important. These are very important. You always hear these teachings, but we need sort of experience, not only understand. We need experience. We have to practice impermanence. For Dharma practitioners, this recognition, impermanence, this recognition and experience is so important. Once we have the recognition of impermanence, then, for example, our compassion for others will be genuine. Our devotion to our teachers will be authentic. And everything, whatever we do, become authentic. If you understand impermanence, if you have a recognition of impermanence and experience impermanence. Because the result of practicing impermanence is domination, our clinging to permanent. This morning I checked how many people die, in U.S. in one day. It tells me about 7,000 people dies every single day. But we don't think, right? We don't think, we have a plans, so many plans for the future. And we have this, what do you call it, permanent clinging to permanence. So that's why Buddhism, especially for Dharma practitioners, this recognition of impermanence is so important. I think these are, thinking of the impermanence of life allows us to correct our attitude and reduce attachment, okay? Permanent, clinging to permanent and have so many expectations and attachment. These are our inner enemies. And recognition of impermanence and result of practice in impermanence brings, reduce this attachment, change our attitudes. So, I do think every day thinking the impermanence. And from my own experience, thinking of impermanence of life is the most powerful practice. Most powerful practice. I can see if I can practice in thinking thinking of impermanence, it can reduce my attachment, and then I have less attachment. Okay, I'm telling you the truth. I'm not an enlightened being, but I have experience of these things like impermanence, thinking impermanence. When I'm thinking impermanence, I can see I have less attachment to my life, to the things, my property things. So that's why thinking of impermanence of life is the most and strong and powerful practice. If you don't like thinking of impermanence, that's your problem. It doesn't matter you like or not. It's truth. It's nature. It's truth. So we cannot deny. We cannot ignore this important wisdom. The recognition of impermanence, because we are, clinging to permanence so strong. Very, very, this is very like old habits. It's very strong habits. We have to change that first. Thinking impermanence, practice impermanence every single day. Then, if you do this, it's directly, when I'm thinking of impermanence, it directly hits my mind that holds that things are permanent. Okay? As soon as I'm thinking, there's no reason I understand everything's impermanence, but that this old habits, usually when I'm not thinking of impermanence, then I have this, things are permanent, this old habit. Then, all these things, attachment, anger, all this there. So it helps me have less attachment when I'm thinking impermanent. So I am trying to have less attachment every day. That's my commitment. Less attachment every day, which is thinking about impermanence. And reducing attachment is very difficult. But through practicing impermanence, I think we can. Less attachment, more love and kindness. Wow, then beautiful. Then you will experience peace of mind. You will experience happy with your life, everything like that. So we have the, we have to practice. If we have the experience of practicing impermanence, we will automatically start to want more time for practice. Through practicing impermanence and bodhicitta, which is love and kindness, we can eliminate attachment. And because, through practice impermanence, we can eliminate attachment. Through practicing the bodhicitta, we have feelings of, this self-centeredness. Practice meditation is, we have to remember this every day, great opportunity to observe thoughts and understand situation. So that's why, the great ancient teacher, the Kadam master Domtumba, said, Dharma practitioners must abandon attachment and selfishness. In order to do that, Telopa said that this is very important, it is not by appearance that we are bind, but by fixation on them. So abandon that fixation. He said, abandon that fixation and the mental affliction. That's why these teachers say, outer enemies, if you have an enemy, like outer, like physically hurt you, a person, actually not, they can't hurt us. They can't destroy our life, for sure. But inner enemies destroy our lives. No peace of mind, no happy, no, so this inner, that's why, like people think, oh, you can't have this. If you have that, then you develop your attachment, or you can't have relationship. No, that's not, that's why Teloba said, abandon fixation, abandon attachment, mental afflictions, So for such yogis, no matter how nice many things surround them, no matter how much property they experience, they did not have any fixation or ownership of these things. That's why for the great meditators, there is nothing to feel bad about samsaric experience. Nothing is wrong. Samsaric experience, nothing is wrong. But the problem is how we related to them, samsara, how we related to samsara is wrong, because came into permanent, so that's why we have attachment, and then we have inner enemies, that's why we always angry, and there is no peace of mind. So the problem is how we related to samsara is wrong. And then it causes us to not recognize the true nature of liberation. Today I said, important to understand the benefit of suffering, important to practice, love and kindness, patience, and bring mindfulness into your daily activities. This is to summarize, and the key point in today's teaching is about three things, okay? To practice patience, which can give us peace of mind, okay? And to practice bodhicitta, which can help us to develop great love, and to practice impermanence, which can reduce our attachment and help us to recognize the reality of the true nature of everything. If you cling to permanent, you don't recognize the nature of everything, true nature. So that's my summary, today's teaching. Now meditation, okay? Now meditation for a few minutes. So it's very important. Slowly change our attitude every single day, okay? That's very, very important. And in order to do that, meditation is very important. Meditation means like becoming familiar with what is positive. Meditation is the way we realize our nature of mind. Meditation is the way we realize nature of our life, nature of everything. Therefore, it is something that we absolutely have to do. Unfortunately, people choose, if you have lots of time, you have nothing else, then you practice, you meditate, then you come to the class like that. But if you have a little bit things like celebration or meet your friend, you choose that first, and then you ignore your practice. That's not correct. That means you don't understand the value of your meditation and practice. So therefore, we have to, absolutely, we have to meditate. You never know when you are going to die. If you, all of a sudden you die, you have nothing. You have no capacity. And during this life, you have no peace of mind. What is the point? Then we are like animal. Animals, they know how to eat. They know how to search their food, and we are like that. Then if we don't develop our capacity to help reduce these animals, then we are like an animal, nothing different. So therefore, we have ability, we have wisdom, we have to practice, we have to develop these qualities. So meditation is very, very important. And so meditate when the moment you close your eyes, you sit in Krishna, and then the moment you close your eyes, some kind of thoughts, right? Some kind of when you meditate and then close your eyes, and then there's some kind of thought comes there and to arise in your mind, right? Make sure that your meditation is positive. Means, be aware of your thoughts. Means you have to investigate your motivation. Okay, motivation is very, very important when you meditate, and especially be aware of your mind's view and the essence of your own thoughts. That's your mind view. When you meditate, you are trying to working with your mind. What is the view? What is the view? Are you clinging to permanent, or are you, attached to this and that? So the view is very important. The correct view, aware of your mind's view and the essence of your thoughts. Meditation doesn't mean that you should squeeze yourself tightly, or you should just completely go loose. The teachers always say, when you meditate, let's meditate, relax. What does that mean? Means like just completely go loose? No, squeeze tightly, completely go loose. Both are not so correct. So meditation is actually when, as soon as you start, your awareness begins to radiate. When you meditate, your mind becomes aware. You become means you become very sensitive. Very sensitive. It means you are aware of what's going on. And in meditation, you are learn how to control. And eventually, first you have to learn how to control, eventually eliminate the uncontrolled mind. That is the point. That is the result of your meditation. So we can meditate anywhere, anytime, together with all our daily activities, as I said. For example, thinking kind thoughts instead of unkind thoughts. Peaceful thoughts instead of angry thoughts, generous thoughts instead of grasping thoughts. So understanding that this is our choice and freedom. It's very important. This is the view. Okay, I just tell you the view of your meditation. What is meditation? What is meditation? So now meditate today. Meditate on shamatha, objectless shamatha, okay? Meditate on shamatha without an object. So, first of all, stay with what do you call it? Stillness for a while, and give yourself. This is very important. When you meditate, give yourself sort of permission to enjoy it. Enjoy it. Means like when you meditate, if you understand the views of your meditation, the minds of your view, then you will enjoy. If you have a positive, or you will experience the peacefulness, all of that, then you will enjoy. And the objectless shamatha is, of course, right? Meditating by just resting in the essence. This means the mind is not focused on anything, but rest in a completely, if you can, sort of a stable, relaxed, and unwavering state. And that means not follow your thoughts. Every time your mind is distracted by thought, bring it back to the relaxation. And do not focus on anything, just to relax and without thought. And sometimes it's difficult. If it's difficult, you can pause your thoughts and let them sort of cool down first, and then slowly start looking at your mind. And if you have lots of thoughts, free your mind from your thoughts. And if you can't, then when thoughts arise, look at the nature of thoughts and recognize that essence of that thoughts. And these thoughts, the essence of these thoughts are, once you sort of recognize the thoughts, and then this essence of thoughts are nothing other than a manifestation of the nature of your mind. So you need to focus, calm, and steady mind to see your thoughts clearly, and recognize the nature of thoughts and let them sort of naturally dissolve into the nature of mind. This means don't follow your thoughts, and focus on the relaxation, which is objectless shamatha, and then automatically your thoughts dissolve into this relaxation, and then you meditate on that, that kind of relaxation, and as much as you can. Think about this. When I say the thoughts comes from your mind, and they're the manifestation of your nature mind, means like when you see that this is great teachers always give us the web in ocean. It's like a web in ocean. Webs from the ocean, they're dissolving back into the ocean, right? If you think about wave, it is just a movement of an ocean. The ocean, right? The wave is nothing other than ocean. It's similarly, when you think about your thoughts, they are just movement of the mind, and the nature of mind is always calm and relaxed. So meditate on that as much as you can, please, for a few minutes.